Our top story tonight at 7 o'clock, the efforts to reshape key congressional districts here in our state. It's called redistricting, that is. Not an exciting word maybe, but of course critically important.
So in a minute we'll explain why the maps are redrawn, who's in charge of that process, and why we should all be paying close attention to what happens with this. The new district maps that came out late last night are drafts. These are not the final maps, but they do offer a first look at the impact California's loss of a congressional seat will have on some key races. The new maps could leave some members of Congress without a political home, and some would have to run against members of their own party. It's all going to happen in the 2022 midterm elections when the balance of power in Congress is at stake.
So here's an example of one of the proposed district boundaries. Sometimes the drawing can be curious. You're looking at the city of Sacramento here. Obviously, you can see I-5 up there. Well, the yellow line divides proposed districts now. It goes down P Street, cuts over to include the Crocker Museum, then goes down I-5 across the freeway, then heading back up I-5 before heading over to the Sacramento River.
Okay, so how did that happen? How did those maps get drawn, and who's in charge of changing them? Let's check in with KCRA3's Brian Heap, who's been looking into this.
Yeah, why should you care about redistricting, right? Well, tonight we are going to focus on the proposed changes to these congressional districts. So these maps are redrawn every 10 years. It's done after the U.S. Census, and this is just one of the reasons that census is so important. The number of congressional seats is determined by the number of people who live in a state. California lost one seat in the House of Representatives because of the census, so these new maps have to reflect that change. This shifting of seats is in the Constitution. It prevents states that have dwindling populations from exercising more political power than the states that still have growing populations. In the past, redistricting has been all about political power for both parties. There's a long history of the politicians in power drawing the districts in such a way to gain even more power rather than prioritizing equal and fair representation. It's called gerrymandering. So how does a state like California try to prevent that from happening? Well, California has come up with a committee that is supposed to be fair and impartial. It consists of 14 people, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans. The other 4 are not members of either party. This commission was created back in 2008. Voters passed a ballot measure to take redistricting power away from the legislature for the Senate, Assembly, and Senate districts. The congressional districts were added in 2010. So those commissioners have a difficult job to do, and drawing the districts is very complex. They do need to follow some rules when drawing these maps. So first, equal population. Each district should have approximately the same number of people. Second, they have to comply with the Voting Rights Act, which means minority groups have to have equal opportunity to elect representatives of their choice. And third, all parts of a district must be connected to each other. Fourth, as much as possible, districts can't split cities, counties, or neighborhoods that share social and economic interests. And fifth, districts must include the closest populations and not bypass them for others who are farther away. And finally, each state Senate district should be made up of 2 complete adjacent assembly districts. So the commission will eventually vote on the final maps. It must get a yes vote from at least 9 of those 14 commissioners, and the vote must consist of 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and 3 who had no party affiliation. So if no map gets those 9 votes, the commissioners have to continue debating until they reach that minimum vote count. So the final maps are due by December 23rd, and the approved maps are then sent to the Secretary of State, along with a report explaining how the commission made those decisions. So there you go. That's the deal with this redistricting.